You saw her once in a dream you weren't supposed to remember. She was standing barefoot in a field of glass, untouched, while everything else bled. The sky was on fire, and she didn't flinch. You kept walking toward her, though your feet were torn. You thought it was love. It wasn't. It was the ache of something ancient, the hunger to be seen by what would never stay. You offered her gentleness, and she fed it to the dogs. You offered your strength, and she turned it into silence. And still, she lingered. There is a part of you that keeps returning to the wound, not because it heals, but because it burns in a way that makes you feel real. She is that fire. She is that absence that answers. She is that lie you told yourself that if you gave more, she would choose you. But she does not want what soothes her. She wants what splits her open, then walks away. And you keep becoming that man just to be devoured. She desires the thing that devours her not despite the pain, but because of it. You chase her heart with offerings, but she only watches the fire. You thought she came to be held. You thought the softness in her voice meant surrender, that the quiver in her breath was an invitation. But you never asked what she was inviting. You assumed love was a cradle, but for her, it was always the cliff's edge. You brought kindness like water to a drowning girl, never realizing she had grown addicted to breathlessness. She does not want safety. She wants the shiver before the fall, the moment the world tilts, the heat before the burn. You misread the symbols. Her silence wasn't shyness, it was calculation. Her tears weren't trust, they were seduction. She does not seek comfort. She seeks intensity, because only in the fever does she forget her numbness. You mistake her longing for love, but what she wants is to be pierced by gaze, by absence, by power. She wants her world shaken, not soothed. And the moment you offer peace, she begins to starve. She is the moth, and you foolish, aching, you tried to become the flame. But flame does not ask to be loved. It devours. It does not explain. It consumes. You softened your edges for her. You whispered promises. You gave her everything she said she needed, and she smiled as she turned away. Not with cruelty, but with boredom. You were too understandable, too kind, too gentle to be mythic, because she does not want the man who kneels. She wants the man who burns, the one who vanishes into himself, untouchable. She desires the eyes that do not flinch when hers weep, the voice that does not shake when hers rises, the one who walks away, even when she begs him to stay. You offered stability. She tasted dust. You spoke of forever. She felt caged. You made her your queen. She felt orphaned. Why? Because she does not love love. She loves the lack of it, the pursuit, the yearning, the space between mouths just before they meet. She loves the ache, not the answer. She loves the shadow of the flame more than the warmth itself. And in your devotion, you made yourself forgettable, predictable, present, and presence, for her, is death to desire. You see, suffering is not her punishment, it is her ritual. Pain reminds her that she exists. The heartbreak, if it is sharp enough, becomes proof that she was alive, at least for a moment, that she mattered, that something was real. And you, kind and trembling, did not make her feel that you were too whole, too willing. You held her too carefully, and so she dropped you. She chases the man who does not reach for her, the man who looks past her with quiet contempt, who sees her beauty and does not flinch, who knows her tricks and does not fall. To him she returns, again and again, not because he loves her, but because he doesn't. And you poor architect of affection will keep building your castle of care, waiting for her to notice. She will, but only to burn it down, because the more you give, the more invisible you become. every act of kindness, to her, is subtraction. Every apology, a nail in your coffin. Every reassurance, a death sentence to mystery. You will ask, why does she always choose the one who breaks her? And the answer will hurt. Because she wants to be broken, not forever, just enough. Just until she feels something raw again. Just until the numbness splits. She needs the edge, not the embrace. She needs the storm, not the shelter. You thought you could save her, but she is not drowning. She is diving over and over just to feel the cold, just to taste the danger. You thought love would be enough, but she does not want to be loved. She wants to ache. She wants to stand close enough to the flame to feel her skin tighten, not to be warmed, but to be undone. And the more you try to give her light, the more she turns toward the shadows. The more you speak of the future, the more she dreams of destruction. Because in pain, there is proof. In chaos, she feels chosen. In cruelty, she finds clarity. You, with your gentle eyes, became noise, background, furniture in the room where she only wanted fire. So she waits for the man who wounds without guilt, who disappears without warning, who returns only to disappear again. She waits for the man whose voice is made of stone, whose hands do not tremble when she cries. She will call him cruel, but she will follow him. She will say he scares her, but she will crave him, because he offers her what you cannot, the abyss. And she wants to fall, not to die, but to feel. And you will watch her go, again. And you will ask what you did wrong, again. You will reread your messages, your confessions, your apologies. You will replay the moments you held her like glass. You will remember her eyes when they softened, and you will lie to yourself. Maybe she loved me, but no. She loved the pain you couldn't give. She loved the hunger your touch never summoned. You will think, if I become colder, maybe she will return. But coldness without power is just bitterness. Detachment without mystery is just emptiness. You cannot pretend to be the flame. You must become it or vanish. And if you do become it truly, you will no longer want her, because the flame does not chase. The flame does not explain. The flame does not bend. It just burns. And those who come too close, they make their choice. She made hers, and it was never you. It was the wound. It has always been the wound. To love her purely is to vanish from her gaze. The more you surrender, the less she feels. In worship, you become invisible, not adored, but erased. You knelt with flowers, and she stepped over them. You offered your ribcage open, trembling with the sincerity of a man who believed love was enough. But in your surrender, something broke, not in her, but in you. You cracked your spine to be chosen, and she watched with cold eyes, not out of cruelty, but because kneeling stripped you of everything that once made you visible. To her, you were no longer man, but mirror and mirrors. Once they stop reflecting power, are only glass. She wants reflection, not devotion. She seeks friction, not obedience. The moment you loved her with purity, with hope, with gentle intention, you became formless, because in your love, you placed her above you, and in doing so, disappeared from her world. She does not see the man who sees her as goddess. She sees the man who sees through her and does not blink. The one who names her hunger before she speaks. The one who loves her without worship, or does not love her at all. You think loyalty will bind her to you. That patience is your strength. But she is not waiting for your endurance. She is testing your erosion. She wants to know, will you break yourself to remain? And if you do, she will leave. Not because you weren't enough, but because you became less in trying to be more. You mistook proximity for power, but the closer you crawled, the more invisible you became. To be hers, you had to vanish, and she cannot love what she cannot feel. She is wired not for security, but sensation. She does not seek safety, but scale. She wants contrast. The man who disappears in daylight and returns at dusk with eyes full of storms. She needs weight, gravity, the scent of danger, the refusal to yield. And you, in your offerings, became light to light. She could not feel you, not your pulse, not your presence. You became an echo in the cathedral of her desire, soft, reverent, and silent. You may have thought this was virtue, that to love her purely, you had to erase all sharpness, all pride, all refusal. But love, for her, is not sacred unless it bleeds, not real unless it resists. You gave her your yes, and she forgot your name, because it is the no she remembers, the hesitation, the pause before surrender, the resistance that suggests soul, and soul, to her, is felt only through contrast, through danger, through heat that does not apologize. You are the mirror too polished, too eager. She wants the man who smashes the mirror and speaks to her through the broken pieces, the one who does not kneel but stands, even when she pleads, the one who, in the presence of her weeping, does not crumble, but watches not unkindly, but unmoved. She does not want cruelty, but she craves immovability, that mythic stillness that says you cannot break me, and in that stillness, she begins to feel. Because the one thing she fears more than pain is nothing, the absence of pressure, the lack of edge. And you, in your goodness, gave her nothing to fight, nothing to chase, nothing to overcome. She felt no need to seduce you, no hunger to be seen, because you saw her too soon, loved her too quickly, and in doing so, you robbed her of the dance, the ritual of ache that precedes the moment she allows herself to need you. She needs tension, the charged silence, the resistance, the unpredictable edge, not to dominate but to feel her own depth, to feel that she had to become something to reach you. And if you are already hers, without question, without conflict, she is left with nothing but the ashes of what could have been fire. You gave her the end without letting her starve for the middle. You gave her resolution when she was only beginning to ache. It is not logic, it is not fair, but it is true. And your suffering lies in the refusal to see it. You wanted to believe love was a ladder that each act of kindness brought you closer. But love, in her world, is a cliff, and only the ones who stand at the edge, unshaken, are remembered. You fell before she pushed. You offered your heart before she asked. And the mirror cracked not from impact but from absence. There was nothing to reflect back to her but your longing. And longing without resistance is emptiness. You believed that if you proved your devotion, she would stay. But you misunderstood what moves her. It is not the devotion itself, it is what must be sacrificed to give it. And if it costs you nothing, it means nothing. She reads weight. She feels power. She does not respond to volume, but pressure. And your gifts, though many, lacked one thing: mystery. You became a known quantity. And what is known can be left behind. She wants the man who doesn't explain himself, who speaks in half-truths and unfinished sentences. Not because he plays games, but because he doesn't need her understanding. The man who turns away, not in anger, but in sovereignty. The one whose silence feels like thunder. The one whose attention feels earned, not given. You became accessible, and she stopped reaching. You will see her eyes light up for the man who says no. You will watch her laugh at the cruelty you tried to avoid. You will feel the ache of being replaced by someone who offers her less. And you will tell yourself it's a phase, that she's confused. But deep down, you will know she does not return to comfort. She returns to the flame, not the warmth, the burn. And you became the hearth, the house, the gentle place. She left because she never wanted to stay. She wanted to struggle, to earn her place in the storm. And you made it too easy, too peaceful, and so she could not feel herself inside it. Love, to her, is the war before the kiss. The blood on the sheets before the name is whispered. The man who survives her rage, not avoids it. So if you kneel, know that the mirror will crack, and in the shards you will see not her, but yourself, bleeding, not from her rejection, but from your surrender. You lost her not when she walked away, but when you stopped standing. She never truly wants you, only the echo of a wound that never closed. What she returns to is not a man, but the shape of familiar hurt dressed in your skin. You thought she was choosing you, her smile, her voice cracking in late-night silence, her hand reaching for yours. You thought all of it meant now, meant you, meant this present moment was real. But what she saw was older than you, older than her even. She wasn't reaching for your hand. She was reaching for a pattern, a sensation that whispers to her bones, not in words, but in ache. You were only the skin it wore that evening. You were a stand-in, a placeholder, a necessary illusion in her ritual of repetition. You thought it was love. It was memory, not hers but her body's. Her nervous system didn't light up when you loved her. It stirred when you disappointed her. That's when she began to feel, not because she's broken, but because she is loyal, loyal to a wound that made her who she believes she is. And you, in your kindness, became unrecognizable to the part of her that remembers pain as proof of presence. She doesn't return to you because you're good. She returns because you resemble. The shape of your withdrawal matches the first man who forgot her birthday. The tone in your voice when you're tired mimics the one who dismissed her tears. And suddenly you become him, not in essence, but in echo. She's not attracted to cruelty. She's drawn to familiar pain. You just happen to speak its dialect well enough. This is why your efforts don't land. Why your improvements don't matter. You learn her triggers, avoid her fears, speak her language, and still she drifts, because it was never you she wanted. It was the emotional landscape she grew up in, distorted through the years, reborn in every man she chooses. And when you refuse to recreate it, she grows restless. Because if the pain disappears, so does her sense of self. She confuses attention for love, chaos for intensity, silence for safety. She wasn't taught love, she was taught absence. She was taught to crave the one who looks away, to chase the one who stays silent, to ache for the one who gives just enough. Not because she enjoys it, but because it feels like home. And home is not where she is safe. Home is where she remembers how to hurt. You want to save her. You think if you stay long enough, love well enough, speak softly enough, she will see the difference. But she is not looking at you. She is looking through you into the past, into the wound, into the bruises that formed her mythology of love. And you, poor man, become the mirror for what she refuses to face. Her rage is not about you. Her withdrawal is not about you. Her confusion is not about you. But you will feel all of it as if it were. You cannot heal a wound you did not cause. You cannot carry what was never yours. Yet in her arms, you are asked to play a part. And when you fail to match the ghost she clings to, you will be punished. Not with violence, but with vanishing. She will grow cold, distant, dismissive, not because you did anything wrong, but because you did not do what was familiar. You didn't hurt her right. She doesn't know she's doing it. It's not conscious, but it is complete. The script is old. You were handed the role before you knew you were auditioning, and if you try to rewrite the ending, she'll leave, not out of hate, but out of fear. Fear that without pain, love is not real, that without distance, intimacy isn't deserved, that without being broken, she isn't enough. And you, if you are honest, you also carry your wound. Perhaps that's why you stayed. Perhaps her chaos matched your hunger to be needed. Her absence mirrored your childhood. Her silence reminded you of the first woman you couldn't reach, your mother. Your first love. Your first failure. You stayed because her pain made you feel useful. You believed if you could just hold her through the storm, you'd matter. You thought love was a rescue mission. You were wrong, because what neither of you saw was this: you were not in love. You were reenacting, two ghosts clinging to each other, hoping the other would rewrite the ending. But you can't. You were not there when the story began. And now, you are both trying to bleed your way into salvation, but pain does not redeem. It only repeats. The tragedy is not that she didn't love you. The tragedy is that she never saw you. She saw the familiar, the same old wound, dressed in new language. She kissed your lips, hoping they would lie in a way that felt like truth. She stared into your eyes, searching for the same betrayal she'd known before, because at least then she'd feel something real. You could give her peace. But peace is not passion to her. Passion is pain with a costume on. So you tried harder, you spoke softer, you stayed longer, and in doing so, you shrank, until all that was left of you was your patience. But patience is not presence. Patience is the silent funeral of your boundaries. And when she danced on their grave, you still smiled, because you mistook endurance for love, and love, for her, was never in the staying, but in the leaving. She wants to hurt, not because she is cruel, but because pain is her compass. It tells her where home was, where loss lived, where identity forged itself through ache. She was taught that love arrives with apology, walks with tension, sleeps in fear. She does not know how to receive, she only knows how to search. The man who disappears becomes the God she prays to. The man who stays becomes the father who disappointed her. And you will never win in this mythology. You are the offering, not the altar. The more you prove you are not like the others, the more she doubts you are real. If you do not hurt her, she cannot locate herself in you. If you do not vanish, she cannot write poetry about your ghost. If you do not dominate her, she cannot feel the storm inside her chest. You are not failing her by being good. You are simply invisible in the framework she inherited. And this is the cruelest truth: she wants to be chosen by the man who would never choose her. She wants to be seen by the one who looks away. She wants to be held by the one who breaks her, because that is how she learned love. And until that story is shattered by her, not by you, she will keep returning to the wound. And the wound is not you. One day, she will walk past a man who does not flinch, not out of arrogance, but out of detachment. His eyes will be quiet, unmoved, unthirsty. She will feel it, that chill, that ache, that pulse beneath her ribs, not desire, recognition. She will reach out not to him, but to the memory inside him, and he will not reach back. He will not burn. He will not stay. And in that silence, she will hear the echo of every wound she ever called love. And for the first time, she will not chase it. She will blink once and remember the fire was never real, only her hunger for it.